Hey, thank you everybody for clicking in on our first UU Campusrec podcast. In this podcast, or on the podcast in general, we're trying to give you, the students of Union University, a bit more of guidelines regarding fitness and health and lifestyle. So the first guest I actually have for the first podcast was actually Jonathan Wilson. Thank you for being here.
Pleasure as always.
Thank you. So, I think you can just introduce yourself to the people who may not know you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's the case for a lot of people, but just for the people who don't know you, you can just go ahead and introduce yourself to them.
Yeah. So I'm Johnny Wilson. I'm the director for Campus Recreation. I'm also the head strength coach on campus. I also teach in the physical education, wellness, and sport department. So I serve a couple different roles here on campus, but my main job is helping people understand and pursue fitness.
Yes, thank you. And that is exactly why he is our first guest, because he has a lot of knowledge in that. And we've actually asked you questions on our Instagram. You can follow us on Instagram, UU Campusrec. We ask you questions that I'm going to ask Johnny now on this podcast. So without further ado, we'll just start. So the first question, and the most common question that I saw from the people answering on Instagram or from the students in general, is what do you think is the best workout routine when first beginning to work out?
That's a really good question. So there's actually a lot of research on working out for beginners, and I don't want to bore anybody with a lot of talk about research, but there's been enough studies on beginners to know that as little as one set in one exercise per 1 week is enough to make change. So if you had never touched a weight, a barbell, a dumbbell, a machine before, came into the gym, did one exercise one time, and came back the next week, odds are high you'd be stronger than you were the week before. It only takes the one set. Of course, there are not many people that are going to come in, do one set, and leave. Maybe that's you, and there's enough research to suggest that that might actually work. Mm-hmm. But in general, our recommendation is a little bit more than just one set per exercise per week. So if I were to make a recommendation for a beginner, I would say no more than probably 3 days a week in the gym exercising. Not because 4 or 5 days isn't a good habit to build, but because it's relatively unnecessary. If you're a very, very beginner level, entry level weightlifter, right, you're just trying to understand weight training for the first time, then any more than 3 days a week is probably not going to give you any more gains than 3 days would go, right? So if you came to the gym 5 times versus 3 times, they make almost the same exact gains.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Right, that's good to know. So would you recommend for beginners to come 3 times into the week, 3 times per week into the gym, and then make like 2 or 3 exercises per muscle group, or would you recommend like a split program or a whole body program, or how would that look? What would you recommend?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we actually are putting out a program this week for beginners, for people that have never worked out before. And general recommendation is to do a whole body workout pretty much every time you go to the gym if you're a beginner, because you want to gain experience. It's one of the most important things you can do in general movements in the gym. You don't have to push crazy hard, but it's important to try out new exercises, new machines, and start to get familiar with all of them. And so my general recommendation is maybe 2 to 3 exercises that you want to get strong at, and that might be the bench press, lat pull downs, a squat, a leg press, something like that, a compound movement. So 1 or 2 of those, maybe up to 3 on a given day, 1 for the upper body, 1 for the lower body, and then follow that up with 2 or 3 assistance exercises. So we would classify an assistance exercise like a bicep curl, or a tricep press down, or a hamstring curl, or a leg extension, or an ab exercise, something like that. So you're starting with 2 big strength movements, an upper body, lower body, and then following that up with 2 or 3 assistance movements, maybe an upper and a lower body as well, and then obviously cooling down at the end. That's a whole day right there.
All right, that's great recommendation. Thank you. So moving on from that, let's say we're getting into a more advanced stage of exercising and going into the gym or being physically active in general. So we want to increase our weight that we use. So the next question is, how do we lift heavy, or how do we increase weight within our workouts without ego lifting?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe, I think you can explain it better than me. Ego lifting, just a term, if you want to explain it.
There's 2 categories, in my opinion, of ego lifting. The first category is what we probably all thinking of. It's the guy that just wants to impress people by his lifting. And so maybe he puts a little bit too much on the bench press. And instead of going all the way down and touching his chest with a barbell, he stops here
Yeah.
You can always put a little bit more weight every time because you're not really getting all the way down. It's a lot easier to do than going all the way down and touch your chest. The second kind of ego lifting is making up random weird exercises to do that look interesting and cool but don't really do anything for you. And so occasionally people will kind of make up exercises that look strange or weird, and they sort of just draws attention to yourself. I think the question is probably talking about the first kind of ego lifting, where you're trying to add weight to your movements and maybe your form just goes all to pieces, right? Your deadlift, you start rounding your back a whole lot, or your squat starts to, your knees start to cave in, your back's rounding.
Yeah, that was the main question I thought from people was, how do I increase weight without looking weird, or without failing my, without dragging all the attention.
That's right, that's right. I think that's a lot of people. I don't think a lot of people really want that much attention in the gym. They want to get in and do their work and make some gains and get out, and I respect that. So how do we do that effectively? Most literature is pretty conclusive that you have to use a higher percentage of your 1 rep max to start gaining strength. So if you're looking at an intermediate or advanced lifter, you need a relative idea of how strong you are at any given movement. So we never recommend this to total beginners, that you go put as much weight as you can put on a squat and see how much you can do, right? Not a good idea for a beginner. But if you're an intermediate, you've been lifting for a couple of years, you need to know how much you can squat or how much you can bench or how much you can do on a lat pull down, because if you spend most of your time doing weights in exercises that are very easy for you, you're not going to make a lot of strength gains. So the first thing you got to do is you got to use weight that's a challenge to you, and you got to work relatively close to failure. I don't recommend that you go all the way to failure. So you don't want to drop a bench press bar on yourself and not be able to get out.
Yeah.
It's not a good habit to build.
That happened to me once.
Yeah, it happened. I think it happens to everybody when they first start at some point, right? I've had to kind of roll that down the chest before.
Yeah, just look at somebody.
Very awkward. So how do we get stronger without ego lifting? You always prioritize form first, right? So we have to make standards for ourselves that we uphold. So for the bench press, the obvious standard is you lower the bar until it touches your chest.
Yeah.
And every time we lift, we have to do that, and that's a requirement. And so if we don't, it's going to be impossible to know if we're getting stronger or if I'm cutting the range of motion short every time.
Yeah, I think that's a great recommendation, just keeping your form and then working as hard as you can, possibly. And then maybe after using the same weight for like 2 or 3 weeks, you can add 5 pounds, and then that should be fine, and you will see how you feel. Right?
There's a couple of rules you can use. You can say 2 for 2. There's a 2 for 2 rule.
Yeah.
Where if you're doing, we'll use the bench press as an example. If you did the same weight last week for this week, and you're trying to do 3 sets of 6 or 3 sets of 8. Well, if this week you can do 3 sets of 10, that's 2 more reps than you could do last week. Do it again next week, like you said. And if you can still do 2 sets of 10 or even 3 sets of 10 or 11, time to add weight.
Yeah.
Go up from there, because you're doing 2 or 3 reps more than your kind of exercise window is calling for. That means obviously you're strong enough to move on.
Nice. So we first look out for increasing the reps, and then after we increase the reps, we increase the weight.
That's right.
And then go back on the reps. So yeah, that should be the answer for that question.
And I will say that's for a beginner or intermediate. When you get to the advanced level, it's a little bit trickier than that.
Okay.
But for the average individual, that works pretty well.
Nice. So, okay, this question I pulled out. It wasn't the highest ranking question, but it was correlating to our last post on Instagram.
There we go.
If you guys want to see the importance of water and hydration for workouts and for being a student in general, and like being a human in general, like around this campus. What is your thought on that? Like, do people in general not hydrate enough, would I say, or just people don't think about it, and then like, does that have an effect on their like workout? Or what would you say about that?
Yeah, there's a very interesting conversation among professionals about hydration in the world of health and human performance. My opinion is that it's very, very difficult to be too hydrated. You can be too hydrated, but in general, a good rule of thumb is hydrate or dehydrate, right?
Exactly. There you see you guys.
You really do want to be as hydrated as you can be for a couple of big reasons. So one of the first is proper hydration allows for homeostasis in the body. So temperature regulation, blood pressure regulation, regulation of heartbeat, prevention of things like headache and nausea, dizziness, that are results of low blood pressure as a result of low blood volume can all be corrected by proper hydration. For working out specifically, hydration seems to lead to a state inside of the muscle that is less likely to fatigue, which means you might be able to put out more energy for longer if you're hydrated versus not hydrated. And it tends to increase the elasticity of a muscle, which means it's easier to stretch without tearing the muscle, which is a great thing, right?
Yeah.
Especially for an athlete. If you think about like a raw steak, right? It's very soft and pliable, it bends and you can stretch it. If you think about beef jerky is legitimately just dehydrated steak. That's all it is. And if you bend beef jerky, it splinters and tears.
Yeah, that's very true.
If you bend a steak, it just bends, right?
Yeah. So kind of use that as a benchmark how the muscles in your body work.
That's right.
That's great. Yeah. So overall, what is very important for you guys?
That's right.
Check out our new post on Instagram. We talk about all this water and all this hydration and how important it is for the body and how much you need for your body. And okay, so the next question. This is actually a fun question. So, what is your personal favorite exercise to do inside the gym, or your favorite exercise in general? Okay,
man, I don't know if I have an absolute favorite. When I'm feeling really good, a heavy squat snatch. Yeah, that's probably one of my favorites. I also really like handstand push-ups. That might be an ego lift though. That might be
handstand push-ups.
Because not many people do them, you know, and so you kind of feel cool doing them. But I think I also just love bench pressing. Yeah, I'm a big bench press fan. But I think my favorite exercise to do on just a regular basis is power clean. Yeah, I just really enjoy power cleans in general.
Yeah, I think it's a great exercise. I've not been doing it. I've actually started doing it last week. I mean, with barely any weight, right? Because I'm still trying to get the form right.
Really important. So many people will just load up the bar with no idea of how to do a power clean and set up terrible form for the rest of their life.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to avoid. I'm just going with the bar only.
Yeah, takes a lot of humility to do that, but it's very important.
Yeah, the first time I did it was the form was bad. But don't feel bad going into the gym with a bad form because it will get better over time eventually.
Practice. It takes a lot of practice. What's your favorite lift?
My favorite lift, okay. Okay, it's not really a lift. Probably the favorite exercise I do in the gym is hopping on the treadmill or the air runner actually.
Ooh,
when I can do my sprints. That's probably the best feeling I have.
Yeah. What a classic soccer player exercise.
Yeah, that's pretty true. But I also like my my squats.
Love a good squat.
I love a good squat, and I love broad jumps and jumps.
Nice, yeah.
I love jumping. Honestly, I feel cool.
It is very cool, especially if you have a good jump. If you have a bad jump, you don't feel as cool. Yeah, you can't jump very far. It's not as cool. Yeah, I don't have a great jump.
But hey, you can snatch weights incredible. I can't do that, but I'm trying to get there.
One day at a time.
All right. Okay, so the next question. The best way, so a couple of students asked this, and I feel this is very important, especially as we're approaching, for me personally, a time of year where I eat more outside, more ice cream and stuff like that. The best way to lose weight, or one of the best ways, or one way to lose weight, with working out in the gym. And what I've seen with the questions is people have this conception that you can only do cardio to lose weight, or you just go for the massive form. So what are your thoughts about losing weight at the highest potential?
That's a great question. And the answer, like most good answers, is it depends, right? It depends on your goals. So if you just want to lose weight, like you just want the number on the scale to go down, then you have to consume fewer calories every day than you burn, right? Calories in versus calories out. If you consume fewer calories every day than you burn, you will lose weight. One of the easier ways to do that is just hop on a treadmill, go for a run, go for a walk, and do that a lot, right? And then don't eat too much. That's a very simple way of looking at it. However, there's a couple of problems that arise when that's all you do. So first, if you have a goal to look lean, some people would say chiseled or ripped, you want to look muscular and athletic. If you never do any weight training, you will not look muscular or athletic. There are very few people that can get away, because they have really good genetics, with doing very little and looking muscular and athletic. But most people cannot do no weight training, cannot do zero weight training and look muscular and athletic, right? The second problem is when you consume fewer calories every day than you burn, right? And you're doing lots and lots of cardio training. So you're restricting your food intake and you're running, biking, swimming, jogging, whatever, a whole lot. Your body will start to down-regulate its metabolism, which is the opposite of what most people want. Most people want a fast metabolism. But the body's trying to get more efficient. And the more efficient it gets, the fewer calories it burns, which means you have to cut out more food and do more activity. So it gets a really negative cycle eventually, and people find themselves pretty burned out. They find they can't sustain that for very long. One of the things that muscle tissue provides is a metabolic cost to the body. It requires a lot of energy to keep muscle on your body. It doesn't mean that having a lot of muscle will make your metabolism go up, because there are some very big, strong, powerful people with lots of muscle that have relatively slow metabolisms. But in general, if you have some more lean muscle mass, you're going to end up having an easier time burning calories in the long run. So my general recommendation is find a way to sustainably reduce calories in your diet, and find a way to incorporate resistance training and cardio to the degree that you enjoy. So for people that really do not like going to the gym to work out, I think you need to go to the gym and work out, but maybe make it 1 to 3 times per week. For people that really love working out and really don't like cardio, you don't have to do cardio to lose weight. So for those people, I would say continue to work really hard in the gym, maybe incorporate some surrogate training to get your heart rate up and to increase your caloric burn during a workout, but you don't have to do cardio. You can throw in cardio deeper into that phase of dieting if you want to help you burn off more calories later. But that's a phasic, structured approach to dieting that I really appreciate. We can talk about maybe another time. It's a little bit detailed.
It probably goes beyond this video.
Maybe a little bit.
Maybe the last question referring to that is, from what I personally have experienced from when I was trying to lose weight, is the exact same thing as you said, like the metabolism slows down and it's not really working anymore like it has before. So would you recommend and that is what I did and it helped me, but I don't know if that's the best way to do it. I implemented like 1 or 2, I called it refeed days within the week, which is, a refeed day is basically where you eat more calories than you would do in a diet normally. So you're basically around even with your calories for the day. So you don't lose any weight for that week or for that day, I'm sorry, but it will help you in the long run. Would you recommend doing something like that? And if yes, how many times per week?
Yeah, I think for those that are disciplined, I think you're a disciplined person.
Thank you, that's so nice.
That can make that a very consistent priority. I think that's a good way to do it, and you can do it maybe 2 days a week. That might be the maximum, because the body loses weight and gains weight on more of a weekly basis than anything else, right? So over the span of a week, your body sort of keeps track of calories. That's a very loose understanding of the term, but so if over the week I burn, 3,000 more calories than I ate, I'll lose almost a pound or so. That's for most human beings. 3,500 is around the ballpark. So if I maybe underate by 700 calories 4 days out of the week, and then ate neutral, like you were said, for 2 days out of the week, then that would put me around 2,800 calories, which is around that 3,000 mark, which gives me 1 more day to choose to refeed or not to refeed. For most people, if you're not a very disciplined person, a refeed can sometimes be a challenge because you're entering a day when you have fewer restrictions and you might find yourself overeating on that day. So you're saying, I'm gonna be really strict for 5 days, and then for 2 days, I'm just gonna do whatever I want. Go to McDonald's, or go to Chick-fil-A, just get anything I want on the menu. Because I'm on a refeed. It ends up being a cheat day instead of a refeed day. Where a good refeed is just, I'm gonna eat more of the good stuff I'm already eating. I just get more quantities of it, and maybe 1 snack or treat that I like. So it depends on your discipline level, and you have to know yourself. Like if you know yourself and you know, if I have 1 Oreo, I'll have 20 Oreos.
That is me, honestly.
You have to be very careful if you do something like that. So my general recommendation to people, if they've never tried dieting or losing weight or adjusting their nutrition at all, is not to worry about refeed days until they need to worry about refeed days. And you might find yourself to be like Outby, where you can make some progress for a while, and then you start realizing, okay, I need to change things up. And if you're very disciplined, you can make a great habit out of refeeds. For myself, I thrive on routines, and so if I enter a weight loss phase and I'm going to lose weight for 2 months or however long I want to lose weight for, I will basically just totally cut out everything that I won't eat, and I'll be that way for 8 to 12 weeks straight.
Really?
Because if I'm in a phase where I'm trying to gain weight,
Yeah.
I'll take the rules off the other direction. So I know myself, if I have snacks and treats and cookies are laying around, I'm probably gonna eat those. So it's easier for me just to say, nah, I don't need any of that stuff.
Well, that's great. I mean, here you have two examples of how people do it, and especially if you're a beginner just trying to lose weight, take really what we said in the beginning and try to cut off your calories just a bit. You don't have to go extremely far.
Right. Don't be extreme.
Don't be extreme. You can just just don't eat that second, I don't know, bowl of ice cream or something like that.
If you get 2 plates of pizza at lunch, maybe go to 1 plate.
Yeah, that's probably a good.
You can still eat pizza.
Yeah,
don't eat as much pizza.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
I still eat it, so it's fine. All right, there was some great advice. One of the next questions I have, very interesting also. I feel like these all questions are very interesting.
These are great questions.
Oh, thank you. That's very nice.
Good job you and good job Instagram.
That's very true. Okay, so this question was asked more by the feminine side of things, more by girls. And the question is, how many times should I work out in the gym, strength workouts, if I want to become fit, but not too muscular? And then, more girls ask that. So I have an opinion on that, but I was going to ask the professional first.
Thank you. So the first thing to point out is a lot of girls have that fear that if they work out too much, they'll get bulky or they'll look muscular, and they don't want to look that way. And so I want to kind of assuage that fear a couple of different ways. First, women have such dramatically lower levels of testosterone compared to men that it's very difficult for them to put on muscle the same way that guys do. So it will be hard. It's not impossible, but it will be hard for a girl, even if she worked out hard 5 days a week, to just look jacked. Like, it would be hard for her to do that. Secondly, if you look at a lot of the guys in the gym that have been working out for a long time, that still are not very jacked, right? But they work out 5 or 6 days a week, really hard, and they're not that jacked, right? The girls are afraid of what the guys want, right? And they're trying to get there, and they still can't get there. So it's even harder. It's 10 times harder, legitimately, and that's probably low, and maybe more like 100 times harder for a girl to gain muscle than guys. And there are guys that still have a hard time getting muscle. So I think it's a valid thing to be afraid of, but I don't think you have to be that afraid of it. So with that said, how many times should a girl work out to get fit and to keep from getting too bulky? I think anywhere from 3 to 6 times a week is a great recommendation. You can make plenty of gains in that way. It just depends on how you work out and how you eat. If you eat like crazy and you're gaining a lot of weight, you'll probably gain muscle if you're doing resistance training along with that. If that's not what you want, make sure that your nutrition is in check. It'll be very hard for you to look bulky, guys or girls, but especially for girls. So my recommendation is 3 to 5 times is probably a good guess for most women. And I would recommend that they do resistance training at least 3 days a week, because the overall physique, the aesthetic that many girls want, involves muscle tone. A lot of girls want to be toned. Muscle tone only occurs when you encounter resistance. You have to do resistance training to get muscle tone. It won't happen otherwise. So if you want to look toned, you need at least 3 days a week of resistance training for a relatively intermediate girl. And then you might incorporate after that on your off days, some running, some cycling, you might try some ab workouts, etc. But 3 of those days should probably be relatively hard resistance training exercises.
I feel like that's a very good recommendation, based on the fact that a lot of girls think that if they go to the, and I wish that would be the reality for the girls. Going to the gym 3 times a week and working out for an hour and a half, and then
all of a sudden, bang! What happened to me?
that would be great.
That'd be awesome.
But the reality is that is not going to happen. So girls, just feel free to use as much weight as you can.
That's right.
Don't ego lift.
Right.
Don't ego lift.
Right.
And you can just go for it, because it's going to be harder for you to build that muscle. It's not impossible. If you still want to do it, you can. I'll definitely do it. But you just need to have the tools and the knowledge that you're not probably going to build up muscle.
Not in the same way that guys are going to do it.
I mean, for guys, it's still hard.
It's very hard.
Putting on muscle in general.
It's very difficult. The body doesn't necessarily want to put on excess amounts of muscle. It's hard to do over the long term. So my recommendation then is just like Alpai said, don't worry and do things that you enjoy. If you like to bike a lot.
Yeah.
If you like to do bench press a lot. If you like to squat a lot. Do the things that you enjoy, because it's more important that you consistently work out than that you work out really hard for 4 weeks and give up.
Yeah.
Because then you won't make any progress.
Yeah.
In any direction.
All right. One of the last questions we have, and that comes in together with being able to build muscle and or maybe to lose muscle and stuff like that. So the last question, one of the last questions, what supplements should I take to build more muscle? The main question was to build more muscle, so we'll focus on that.
Mm-hmm.
The supplements that the average person needs.
So I would put these supplements into 2 categories. There's 3 categories of supplements that I would say out there, and this is not original to me. There's a nutrition expert called E.C. Sinkowski. She's a researcher in the field of nutrition and supplementation. Mm-hmm. I would recommend you look her up because she's got some phenomenal stuff to say. She's very smart. E.C. Sinkowski. But this is from her, and I agree with it. There are 3 basic categories. The categories that are supplements that definitely work and you should buy if you want to gain muscle or make fitness improvements. Supplements that are worth a shot, that may or may not work depending on who you are, and then supplements that have almost no validity in the research and are probably not worth your money unless you are the 1% of the 1% looking for the very top level gains. So if you are Lionel Messi and you're trying to get 0.02 seconds faster to beat one person to a ball, okay, it's worth taking whatever supplement is legal for his league. Yeah. But if you're just the average person like myself that has no shot at going to the Premier League, then it's not really worth it for me to take some of these supplements. So the main supplements I recommend, the 2 that are the most well researched and have led to the most obvious improvements in fitness are simple, and you probably already know what they are: protein and creatine. Protein will not make you jacked, right? So if we both took protein and never worked out, nothing would probably happen. Yeah. It's unlikely. There's mixed research, but it's unlikely anything would happen at all. But if you do a lot of resistance training, the muscles that you're working out are being broken down to some extent, and to build those muscles back up requires protein. And if you increase dietary protein, research is pretty confident that you're going to be able to build that protein back faster with better results. Yeah. So more protein is a great supplement. Now, you can get protein just from your diet. Yeah. You can just eat lots and lots of chicken and legumes and dairy and et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. But if you don't eat a whole lot of meat or
vegetarian,
or even dairy products, it's very helpful to have a protein supplement.
Yeah.
Do you have to have a protein supplement? No. There are plenty of very jacked, muscular, fit people that don't eat any meat, don't have a protein supplement, and have a plant-based diet. You can do it. It's a little bit easier if you have a protein supplement, but it's not necessary to have a protein supplement.
Yeah, that's very true. I think having a protein supplement in general for maybe days where sometimes people have days where they not eat as much protein as they want to, just because of choices that we make during the day. That's fine.
Time is one of them.
Yeah,
time. Couldn't eat lunch.
Yeah, couldn't eat lunch, couldn't eat dinner. That's fine. I personally have a protein supplement too. It's pea protein.
Yeah.
Or I had soy protein as well. I like it a little bit more. But yeah, there are definitely options for even vegetarians or vegans. I was vegan myself for 1 year, so there's definitely options for everybody to get on protein. So the next thing you said was creatine, and I feel like the common one of the common thoughts about creatine is that it increases like water within your body, like the water storage within your body. And how would you say creatine has a positive effect on the body, especially for working out and being active and being around all the time? And what do you say about the water storages inside the body?
Great question. So I don't want to bore anybody with all the details.
Yeah,
I'll kind of keep it brief. Yeah. Creatine works. I'll talk about how it works and then how the water storage happens in the body as well. So creatine supplements, it is a supplement, it supplements the energy pathway involved in high effort. So sprinting or weight training, it supplements the energy pathways that's conducive to that type of exercise. So it just makes it a little easier to work hard for a little bit longer. So if you and I were both doing sprints and we were the same speed, if you took creatine and I did not, it's likely that you would be able to run just a little bit farther than I would in the same amount of time, or you might be able to run the same distance just a little bit faster. That distance and the time is very, very small. We're talking 1 to 5%. So you might be able to run 51 meters in the same time I could run 48 meters.
Yeah.
It's not very much different, right? It's a pretty close. But for someone that's interested in getting all the gains they can,
Yeah.
that's significant.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
That is a world record.
Or
You know,
and if somebody at uni wants to set a whole world record,
just take creatine. You're
just
good.
take creatine. You gotta do it. Or
So-
for athletes, for example.
I think
That could be very important.
yes. I cannot think of a sport, maybe cross country, but I cannot think of any other sport that would not benefit from creatine.
Mhm.
Doesn't mean you have to take it. Don't have to take any supplement, but it is beneficial for most athletes in general to take creatine. And it's one of the most well-researched supplements that exists. There have been decades of research and papers and scientists that have studied creatine usage for a long time, and it's probably the safest possible supplement you could take. It's not banned by the NCAA. It's not a performance-enhancing drug on the illegal list. It does enhance your performance, but it's not illegal because your body makes creatine. So that leads to the last question. How does water retention increase when taking creatine?
Mhm.
It's pretty simple. A lot of people say that creatine's main role is to draw water into the muscles.
Mhm.
That's a byproduct of what it does. It is not the main role of creatine to draw water into the muscles. Creatine supplements the fast glycolytic pathway of energy production, which is something we don't have to get into. It's bioenergetics. But an isotonic solution, if you took chemistry, you know what an isotonic solution is. So if you have a high amount of solute dissolved in a liquid and a semi-permeable membrane dividing that liquid from a liquid without the solute, more of the liquid without the solute will be drawn toward the liquid with the solute. So if you have more creatine in the muscle will be more likely to draw water to itself because there's simply more dissolved in the muscle.
So then the muscle will be, just like you said, 1 to 5% more efficient or more able to do harder work.
Yes, but not because of the water.
Yeah.
That's a byproduct.
Okay.
It's not a direct correlate to performance.
Oh, okay.
It may help with delayed fatigue, but it is not the primary avenue by which creatine helps supplement performance. The primary avenue is directly as a result of ATP production in the muscle cell, which is another biochemistry thing we don't have to talk about. But the water retention is a phenomenon that does occur.
Yeah.
It is not dangerous, and it doesn't do anything more than eating a high sodium diet would do.
Yeah.
So if you eat lots of sodium, you're going to keep a lot more water in your body, and creatine does the same thing.
Yeah, I don't have to. Let me think about anything I have to add. I think you covered it all.
Nice.
Well, let me just see for the last thing.
There's lots more to be said on all
There's
this
obviously
thing,
lots more to be said. The scope of this video is just to have to give students a broad understanding. I will actually link some of the articles under this video regarding to creatine and protein intake and how much you should actually take inside your body. But I think this podcast so far has been really good. I feel really good about this, and
great questions.
Thank you. I want to thank you for being here
Of course.
with me and being able to answer the students' questions. If you have any more questions, just shoot them under this video, and we'll do the best we can for answering these questions regarding all your inquiries for working out or doing activities in general. Thank you very much for watching so far, and there will be more podcasts in the future, so it would be best if you subscribe us and link the bell notification so you get notified when we drop a video. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for being here with me.
Always a pleasure.
All right. I will see you guys later. Thank you very much.
Adios.
All right.